Huh? allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, and justice for all.
Everyone, turn your cell phones to mute. There's no smoking. Thank you for back. Okay, old business. With you, Trevor, area variance for report SBL 86.4-3-91. Applicant Trevor Pachue is the owner of a property located in 4E Report with an SBL located on the west side of Falcon Drive in an ag zoning district. At this time, Pachue seeks to annex a 25-foot wide parcel of land from the adjoining Clem property and create a two-lot subdivision, each with 50 feet of road frontage and 25-foot wide access parcel. Eagle Court will still only serve two individual lots, and the Clem driveway will exit directly on Falcon Drive. To accomplish subdivision, the applicant is seeking an area variance from the zoning board of appeals for relief from Town Code Section 100-14-4. Flag lots for subdivisions of 4 or fewer lots, only one flag lot shall be permitted. All right. So, anyone here represent the applicant? All right. Step up, state your name. Trevor, all right. Okay. So I'm meeting, but I have read the minutes. Fairly familiar. The board had asked for financial statements for construction of the road. You provided $222,100. Do you know how long the road would be?
Long. I had a this scale on that.
Do you have blue beam to scale that, Dave, or no?
Looking at 144, 300.
Scale is 1 to 500.
Yeah, I'm looking actually at this. Yeah, for you. This is 345 from that point, I assume, to this point, and then 144 out here. 148 on this side.
145. And the other was 144, 155.
Yeah, I'm looking at the curve table doesn't help us either.
So about 445 feet, give or take.
Yeah, I'm looking for a scale.
Yeah. On the bottom right,
So that's inch, 50 feet. Here's that inch. Well, there's that inch. Yeah, probably that's about right.
450, 500, something.
Yeah, I'd call it 500.
All right, so gentlemen, just fill me in on your feelings. I believe you guys did a balancing test last time. I read it. It seemed like we were kind of back and forth a little bit. We wanted to get some financial information.
Well, how
Microphone.
how I look at it was the only thing to prove that they had would be a financial difficulty for to just make another lot, basically make one lot. It's going to cost, I didn't have a number in front of me, but it would be his hardship to put in one road in just to get the one extra lot. Because he already has permission for one piece in the back, the whole piece in his property already, like about 5 acres. Okay, over 10 acres. He has over 10 acres and he has permission to go to it
Right, for a single,
for a single dwelling. So my reasoning was, I just had a flash in my mind, what's really technically the hardship? Town already had to get the original owner's permission to have a road in there. How much would it cost just to go with the road and wouldn't have to come into the zoning board for a relief? Would be something that would be approved. I was trying to stay within the zoning board, if it was legally.
you were positioning as a feasible alternative method.
Yes, yes. So before I can make that decision, I have to know what the cost of the road would be to put in. Every driveway. So they gave one more lot, let's say the lot went for the neighborhood, the lots out there go for 60,000 or more. So he took $60,000 that he would receive basically monetarily. So you're talking close to $120,000 just for that extra lot. That would be the hardship. Because you still have to.
2 acre zoning, right, Dave?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if it's 10 acre parcel and he does actually put in the road, that doesn't hold water because that doesn't allow him, like 2 acre subdivision. It actually allows him a 2 lot subdivision, it's actually a 5 lot subdivision. If you were to construct the road, you could absolutely put 5 lots.
I'd have to construct the road all the way through that. And as you can see, my house is already in the middle of it. There's nowhere else to go. And I'm not making a dime off this because I'm giving it to my brother.
We understand.
I'm just updating.
I'm just trying to make apples to apples and force.
Understand.
So still, just for the extra lot, whatever price you got for the property, this is monetarily, just throwing numbers around. So basically, one lot would cost $60,000 in that neighborhood if it's to go on market, maybe. But you take that off the price of the road, and it'd be $160,000 above and beyond just to get the lot in. And I feel that that is a hardship. $160,000 just to get another lot.
Right.
Go back to the, but I lot to be more.
Right, but just playing devil's advocate,
Yeah,
when you purchased the land, it was a single lot,
It was 4 lots consolidated.
but it was a single lot. You bought it as a single lot.
So did the neighboring parcel.
Right, I'm not asking about anybody else. Let's just stick with, so you bought it as a single lot. And you were aware at the time that you would have to either build a road or gain a variance to gain a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so you went in knowing all of the facts. Okay. Okay, would you guys mind if we went through the balancing test? I mean, do you guys have any questions or anything else for the applicant or? All right, so this is a question for Paul Van Cott. Because the board closed the public hearing, I know there was some language at the end of the meeting, where the applicant did not have a problem with extending the 45-day and taking information from the public. Is that still, are you still? Okay. Are we good with that, Paul?
you're muted, Paul.
You gotta speak into the mic so he can hear you.
You're muted, Paul.
He's still muted.
Nope.
There we go.
Okay,
There you
Yeah.
go. Now we got it.
no, we're fine. Patty Brooks was there on behalf of the applicant on September 8th, and she indicated that they would waive the time for a decision. So the board, if it chose to, could wait until November to make a final decision after receiving the information that Paul thought was needed. So, you know, you have that as a backdrop. They did go through the balancing test. If you wanted to go through it again, and if you wanted to make a decision tonight, you could do that. And then just have me provide a resolution for you to sign after the meeting that's consistent with the decision that you make. So you can go either way. You can wait till November, or you can nail it down now.
Okay, in the audience, I have a person that would like to comment on the application. Can we do that?
Absolutely. It's your prerogative to allow public comment at any time.
Okay, thank you. If you could just step back with a member of the public. You state your name, your address, please.
Yep, James Rosa, 14 Falcon Court. Or Falcon Drive. So on the property that butts up to this, off of Falcon Drive right now, my camper is in view on the map right there, the square at the edge of the line. That's my camper,
right here?
and that 3-point-ish
This
acres
is you.
is mine. Yeah.
Okay.
When I bought that property and we signed our contract, Pleasant Ridge, who we bought from, had already combined that to one parcel. So we bought knowing that we would never have a neighbor that close unless they built the house there originally. So now we've lived there for 2 years. We built our home. We moved there specifically for that street, for people that we know on this street. And now we're being told that there's potentially going to be a subdivision of the lot behind us, and we're going to get a house directly behind us. And I don't feel that it's one, fair or right to us after living there for 2 years and knowing that it was already, the subdivision was already put back to one lot, that now I'm going to go from one of the best lots on the street to probably one of the worst. Because instead of going, right now I have all trees and everything in my backyard, and the owner of that property can 100% clear that, but the house can't go there. If you guys allow the zoning to go through and to accept a variance to the already town law on this, then you're gonna put a house in my backyard. And I bought that, like I said, I bought that piece of property specifically and built a house on that, where we built it. So that was 2 lots. It got combined into one because the town would not approve us to build on the front of it, which I had no problem with. So we built all the way in the back. So I actually can't even put a garage up if I want to. I have to put a small garage in the back now because the town of Lloyd has a variance that says you can't put anything in your front yard. So I knew when we built my house what we were getting into, but I don't think it's fair that I abided by what it was. We took this subdivision and made it 2, knowing that, and we bought our piece of property knowing that those 2 pieces, that 25 acres that was originally slated for 10 2.5-acre parcels through the Pleasant Ridge was not approved by the town, and they put it back to 2 lots. So I don't think it's fair that I'm gonna go from having privacy in my backyard to now having a driveway and house back there. And my neighbor's gonna be even worse off to the left of me, the next neighbor down, because the house is literally gonna be in their backyard. So I just don't think it's fair that after living there for 2 years and finding this property in the end of 19 and doing all my legwork and selling my house and building the house with my family and raising our family on a road that we get along with everybody, for somebody to come in and then put a house in the backyard, in my backyard.
Can you give me an idea of where your house is right now? And you said the trailer, but is that where it is?
No, so that's the camper. That's a camper. That's just a camper.
And then where is your house?
The house is, I would say, on the back third of the property because I have like a 2-acre field in the front, but I'm built on a rock. So I have no basement, I have a slab. We're on the back third of the property. So yeah, in that range is probably right about where the house is.
Mhm.
And it's long. It's It goes the long way with Falcon, so the short way would be east and west.
Okay, and it's.
So I'm off of my back porch right now, my camper's probably 75 feet off my back porch. And then you're talking, according to the markers that I found behind my camper, you're talking like 4 to 8 feet, depending on where the markers are. They put them in trees, so they move back and forth. So depending on where it is for the day, it's in that maximum 10 foot. So you're talking literally my backyard now is gonna be a house.
And Dave, this is a question for you. Being the parcel as it is right now, if the road was constructed, he would not need a variance from us. And you could put potentially 5 lots there.
With planning board approval.
With very few hoops to jump through, because it's legal. They wouldn't need a variance, they wouldn't need anything. That would be an acceptable use of the land as it were.
That's correct.
So I absolutely understand what you're saying, and I'm with you. But as it stands, that piece of property, when you purchase your piece of property, that piece of property has potential to be broken into 5 lots with a roadway.
But it was already taken by the town and discounted. They didn't approve that. So the town said, we're not going to give you.
Don't go by what was done in the past. Go by what can be done legally in the future. So your zone is 2 acres. So for every building lot, it needs to be 2 acres.
Correct.
So if you're willing to put the expense in for a roadway, you can build on every 2 acres. So if that's 10 acres, you can have 5 building lots. Now, it may cost $1 million, $10 million to put the road in. But if the owner of that property is willing to bear that expense, they can legally put 5 houses on that property. And as long as they meet setback, they can put the houses wherever they want.
I agree with you. However, that road was originally supposed to cross over and then come back out on Station. And Pleasant Ridge got denied by the town because of water issues and where that road was gonna be originally.
Okay, and again, that's where we come back to, depending on how much you want to spend. If the person that owns that land wanted to spend X amount of dollars, they could have 5 houses on a 10-acre parcel. So when you bought your property, just like when your neighbor bought his, he bought it knowing that he only has 1 house. He can only put 1 the way it is right now. When you bought yours, you know that behind you, there's potential for 5 houses to go on that piece of property. Like anyone in this town, if you live in 1 acre zone, there can be a house on every acre. If you live in 2 acres, a house on every 2 acres. So I understand your argument, but there is potential for houses to be built on property after you buy yours.
And I understand what you're saying. What I'm trying to get at is that in 2019, when we were looking at that parcel, and it was essentially 2 lots, and it got formed into 1 for us, those were put back into 4. So I would have no reasonable expectation to know, okay, well, now they put it back into 4. I should have no reason to believe that they're ever going to whack it back into multiple pieces. Otherwise, I never would have built there knowing that I had 4 houses behind me. I mean, I'm going from one of the best lots on the street, having no neighbor behind me, and pretty much no neighbor to my left side, because I left a substantial amount of wood on that north side, and I have almost 2 acres in front of me. So I have a pretty good lot there. I'm going to lose all of my privacy in the back of my house if you approve that. And that was not on the books when I bought my house. It went from 4 or 5, whatever you want to consider, to 1. So I bought it knowing that was going to be 1 lot behind me, not potentially 4 now.
Okay, but regardless of what this board does, because right now the applicant is in front of us with a variance. That's something that's not allowed, that we would give them permission to do.
Correct.
Without a variance, no variance, they can put the houses right where they are right now. If they build a road, if they come in, do exactly what they're doing, build a road, they can put a house there. I'm just making you aware of that. Like,
I'm aware.
they have the right to use their property as legal in this town, which is breaking it into 5 lots and putting a house in the lot. So
If they want to do that, then they get the same neighbors that I got then.
Right.
They got 10 acres and they have their privacy, but they're gonna ruin my privacy now after being there for over 2 years. And that wasn't gonna be the case.
Can I put in 1 minute here? I want to explain something to you. It's a real estate deal. Many people in this town have bought 2 lots, 3 lots, and they built their house. If you consolidated a lot into one deed, your real estate taxes drop tremendously. So when the bank said that they're gonna consolidate 5 lots into one piece or 2 into one, it was a problem because the bank did not want to pay the excess taxes on the real estate of those parcels. It's a game that real estate people and property owners do. I bought a piece of property that not too long ago had a house on it with 2 lots. But no, it was 2 lots originally. The person who had the house combined the lot because he didn't want to pay the real estate taxes on the second lot. Find out zoning changed without realizing the lot was non-existent. It was too small. The lot changed. So basically, it stayed with 1 lot. But sometimes it's a win, sometimes they lose. But right now, they combined them for any old reason that left 10 acres back there. That's all I have to say. I'm sorry for your inconvenience, but things happen. I'm not sure.
They were combined though because the town didn't approve them to be individual lots.
Excuse me, if you go back to the town, pull up the regular print, of this piece of property, you find out the whole project was approved. Because the bank came back to us, get relief because the zoning changed after they got it back, after the original. It's all approved, stamped. State in Ulster County, there was a tax map printed. So after the fact, it changed. But basically, the whole project was approved project because the bank gave them a ton of money to build it. So, going back to the chairman, that's all I have to bring up on you.
Anybody have any questions?
Mr. Chairman, this is Paul Ackerman, if I can just hold for just a moment.
Okay, just give me just 1 minute. I want to see if the board has any comments or questions for this member of the public, and then we'll absolutely acknowledge you.
Yes.
Okay. So, do you have anything else you want to add, or, you know?
I've given you my piece, you understand where I'm coming from.
Certainly.
I did my homework before I bought this lot. So I just think it's a shame that's gonna go totally backwards, if you approve this for what we bought this lot for.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Mr. Ackerman?
Thank you. I just want to address just a couple of minor items. And the first thing is that I think it's a little disingenuous to say that as a matter of right, the property owner could now subdivide this into 5 lots. First of all, there is a process, as you're aware. It may not need a variance. It may need a variance. We don't know at this point. But that would go through the planning board, and there would be a substantial review of that subdivision. And it would go through a secret process, which would be a detailed review of the project and would take into consideration some of my client's issues. So to say that they could just, as a matter of right, put in 5 lots, we don't know that. That's a planning board issue. And just remember that this is now a fundamentally different project, given the fact that 1, there was already a flag lot that was created, and 2, that there was already a house that was constructed on a combined lot. So that needs to be taken into consideration. I just want to address one thing. At the last meeting, this board did approve a flag lot, and consistent with town code, it indicated that a detail on the map would be included that would say that the flag lot would not be further subdivided. And it's curious to me why, in this case, that same town provision of not further subdividing a flag lot is not being considered by this board. But yet, at the last time a flag lot was approved, the board insisted that a note be placed on the map that it not be further subdivided. I think there's a reason that the town code provides for the that a flag lot not be further subdivided. And I think that the board should consider that, since, it was considered at the last meeting at the flag lot that was approved, and it is contained in the town code. But this is now a fundamental different project, given the fact that the lots were combined and a house was constructed. I don't know what the planning board would do. I don't know that this board knows what the planning board would do, but it would go through a substantial review process, including seeker, before it was just a matter of right, able to be subdivided into additional lots.
Okay, as far as stipulation put on where there was no further development on a flag lot, we haven't gotten to that point for this particular matter that's in front of us right now.
Right. My point is that it was already, a flag lot was already created, and pursuant to town code, it indicates that the planning board shall include a note that it shall not be further subdivided.
They haven't been to the planning board yet.
It was when this flag lot was approved.
I'm missing. Say that again?
All right,
You got the idea here, hold on. The 10 acres was.
I don't believe he's talking about the 10 acres. I believe he's talking about something that we did in previous meetings.
11.
No,
Right.
I'm saying that pursuant to town code 114A5, there's a requirement that any approved plat containing flag lot shall contain a note stating that no further subdivision of the flag lot shall be permitted. And that was discussed at the last flag lot that was approved, but here, that's not being considered.
I think he means the concept is not being considered.
Right, but it hasn't gotten to that point yet.
No, I think what he means is if the, I'm sorry. Mr. Ackman, this is Dave Barton. I'm the building department director. I'm going to try and clarify for the board what I think you're trying to say. Please correct me if I'm inaccurate. I think Mr. Ackman is attempting to describe is that if the planning board was reviewing this instead of the zoning board, the planning board would put a note on the plans that says no further subdivision of the flag lot shall occur. So that is a concept in law out of our zoning code. Mr. Ackman, I think, again, correct me if I'm wrong, the suggesting is if that is a matter of law in our code, he's suggesting that this board should take that into consideration while reviewing this additional flag lot variance request.
Right. I believe that it should be prohibitive of further subdividing this flag lot that was created.
That's why there's a variance process.
Is that part of the application for the variance? Variances. Variances from,
He purchased from Clem. Did he annex from Clem?
Who did? Nothing's happened yet.
It has not, but that's a proposed annex.
Yeah, so the map you see in front of you on the screen is the proposed subdivision map, which I cannot permit to move into the planning board because
Right.
it's the double flag lot issue. That's why they came to you.
Okay. Okay, so would the board be opposed to running through the balancing test again? I wasn't here last meeting. I read it in the narrative, but I know you guys had a couple of questions. Would you be?
Got to use the mic.
Just turn yourself on.
You still have a town, with subdivision. And they should know about the side lot. And it's still there. I mean, you're gonna just dump it out the window?
At no point that I want to take anything out the window. I'm just asking if the board would be willing to go through the balancing test.
I have no problem with it.
I have no problem with that.
Okay. So, Paul, could you run us through, Paul Van Cott? Could you run us through the balancing test? Please.
Mr. Ackerman, I'm gonna mute you, okay?
Yes, please.
Okay, so we're talking about an area variance. And the decision basis or the decision point for the board is basically a balancing test. And you're balancing the benefit to the applicant from the grant of the requested area variance versus the detriment to the neighborhood and community that would occur by granting the variance. And as you consider that balancing test, the first factor that you look at is whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the area variance.
Okay. Gentlemen, this is up for discussion. I believe it would.
There's at least one person. Right?
There is. My fear here is this is a flag lot. We have not, to my recollection, right, we have not taken a flag lot and made it into two flag lots. And that's why I asked if that property was annexed already or not, or whatever. So I think it would be out of character and detriment to the neighborhood. Give me your feedback, give me your feelings. Where are you guys at with this?
Could you speak into the microphone?
Yeah, so you guys gotta use your mics. Mr. Chairman, can I interrupt 1 second?
Yes.
So again, Dave Barton, Building Department Director. It's a question for Mr. Clem, because I know that this board, one of your duties is to review alternatives and suggest alternatives to variance requests. I do know that the primary concern from the public, one member of the public and the attorney here representing them, is the sort of the proximity of the additional house close to the backyard of the existing house, the almost 3 acres there along Stockton Drive. I'm wondering if Mr. Clem might be inclined to change the nature of that new lot to increase it and therefore move the house further into the property and away from that front. It's just a suggestion. I've seen this happen before with in other situations.
You mean the pew?
I'm sorry, yes, the pew.
Right.
Sorry, guys. So I know this lot. I was actually interested in purchasing it one time, a long time ago when it was first up. I'm intimately familiar with how the road was resolved. Town didn't have anything to do with that. The bank didn't want to spend the money to build that $3.8 million road at the time. So if the configuration of the lots was amended, some of this discussion might become moot. Just putting it out there.
Can I answer you just a little bit?
No. You of all people.
I still feel this one flag lot that was developed prior to all this. So if you moved it back right next to his brother side by side, you still have two flag lot requests. So we're back to frame one again. So my problem is with the two flag lots, not they can put a hedgerow, we can make the guy put a hedgerow up and put big trees in the guy's backyard, we can do all that for the backyard. But that's not the question. The question is the two flag lots, characteristics of the neighborhood, Walls themselves. I'm going back to.
Sure, I understand, Paul, and I think your point is well taken. The reason for my interjection, Mr. Chairman, was since we're in the impact of the neighborhood question.
Right. We could minimize the
minimize
impact
that.
to the neighborhood by configuring it a little bit differently.
That was my intent.
Has the applicant explored those? Yeah, have you done?
If I decided to turn it into a road, it would be more of a detriment because I have to widen it and take all the trees out along the concerned neighbor. So to give the variance, it would give it more of the natural feel. If you take a ride back there, you don't even see my house. You'll never see his house. We talked about with Patty reconfiguring, moving it back to the west a little further. You know, we could put a 50-foot buffer in, just as we do with the farmers. So we, we're trying to, do keep it minimal. But like you already said, I could just put the road in, which would be more detrimental to the neighborhood.
Right, you could explore putting the road in. Right.
What would be the detriment of the road, just the clearing of the trees?
Yeah, it would be like wide open.
But again, if that were legal, if he had that, if he could do that, that's not for us. That's for the planning.
They're putting it out there.
Right. We appreciate it.
John, I'm sorry, one more thing. I understand the gentleman's point about moving the house. I think it's a great idea. The hiccup is where the septic are illustrated, there'll be no trees on those two blocks.
Yeah, we can move the house and the septic and everything to the west to make sure that we're.
Okay, so Article 1 for the balancing test. We've gone through, Paul, you're good with Article 1, question 1? And Pat?
So where do you end up landing on that? Are you saying that as proposed in terms of the location of the development on the lot, that would produce an undesirable change?
I think the two flag lots would be the undesirable change.
Regardless of where they put the development. And,
Right.
and that's a change, and that's an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood and detriment to nearby properties.
Right.
Okay. So the second question is whether the benefit sought by the applicant can be achieved by some other feasible method that does not require an area variance. Is there any other way that they can accomplish their goals of having a second lot that would not require a variance?
Building a road. So there is an alternative method, albeit expensive, albeit $222,000. There is an alternative.
And
Feasibility.
is that something, I mean, we asked for that information, so do you consider that to be something that
Well,
is
that's what I'm saying.
feasible?
The feasibility is a factor. And like I had said, the road would allow them to explore 5 building lots. more than 2 building lots. So that expense would be shared, that 222 instead of being in 2 building lots would be shared with more than 2.
Yeah, but not to push back on that at all, but their goal is 2 lots. And so you have to consider, I think, feasibility relative to their proposal and not to the potential that they could have 5 lots back there. Because, you know, for whatever reason, they only want 2 as opposed to 5. So $221,000 in order to have a second lot coming off of this shared driveway.
So we would not be able to consider the potential for return on that investment?
You know, you're really supposed to focus on their objective, you know, and not something that is not proposed or sought by them. You know, they're not seeking a 5-lot subdivision. They're seeking 2 lots. And they're saying that for 2 lots, which, you know, ostensibly they would limit any development to, you know, they need the variance, and it would cost $221,000 otherwise for them to build the road to be able to gain subdivision approval for their 2-lot subdivision.
Okay.
You see what I mean? You can't say, well,
Right. You can't look. Oh, something is that.
Sorry about that.
No, I got you, Paul.
Okay. Yep.
Just to be clear, the proposed to turn to the town road is only for the hammerhead. It's not, if to go further on lots, you have to go all the way to the end, which is substantial.
I have a question, clarification. The purpose of the application is to have 2 lots, or is it your personal goal? You said it's for your brother and you're not gaining anything from that except him being able to have a house there?
No financial.
So it's not, it is the actual, it's not just for 2 lots, it's to have 2 dwellings.
Use 2 lots that have 2 zones. So the subdivision bylaws say you only have 1 dwelling per lot.
No ADUs?
Dave, any idea?
Yeah, so she needs accessory dwelling units. It would be a smaller building. We don't currently allow them except as an accessory apartment town. We are working on language for that, and we have a comprehensive plan about to be put together. I've already spoken to the planner for that. About ADUs, it's sort of the thing now. We don't currently have a provision for that.
Okay.
And I have no, I'm not looking to further develop either. I personally don't want anyone else behind me. So putting the phone.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just wondering if it was to actually have 2 lots for another purpose, or if it was just to have 2 dwellings in
but
one area
yeah, but the only way to do the 2, unfortunately.
right now, right?
Okay, so for question number 2, are we comfortable saying that there is no feasible alternative to the variance?
I agree.
Anybody else?
So you're saying is that the $200,000 can be more of a hardship than influence on going the other way in characteristics.
It really just affects the feasibility of doing a 2-lot subdivision, Paul. You know, if you think about it from a standpoint of what would be normally appropriate for the construction of a driveway for a 2-lot subdivision.
Right. So there's no other feasible means to achieve a 2-lot subdivision. Okay. 3, please, Paul.
Number 3, is the question of whether the requested area variance is substantial. And this, I would suggest, this is where consideration of the fact that you already have one flag lot, and the requested variance is for a second flag lot. I think that's probably relevant here, that discussion that Mr. Ackerman brought up.
Right, which I think is very much so. Comments from the rest of the board?
No, it is substantial.
I believe it is.
Yeah.
It's very.
Doubles.
Right.
It breaks their barrier.
We allow for 1 and 4, and we're going for 2 for 2. So it is substantial. The board is comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so then I'm sorry, the 4th factor, and it kind of goes back to the first factor, but whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. And again, we're focused here primarily on the creation of the second flag lot, recognizing that future development will be subject to the planning board's review and approval if the variance is granted. And, for all the reasons that Mr. Ackerman pointed out, where that review will occur, the planning board will be looking at the seeker impacts of any development that might affect a neighboring property. We'll also be looking at the overall site plan and trying to figure out appropriate mitigation for any impacts that might occur. So our focus is really just on the creation of the flag lot.
Right, and environmental impact for the creation of the flag lot. Correct? Or 2 flag lots?
No, one additional.
One additional flag lot. So I don't know if that has a substantial impact.
I think it's substantial because there's no, just the one in the neighborhood now. Now you're putting 2 in the neighborhood, and they both will be next to each other. I think that a character. And you're gonna, so you think you can, you what you feel?
Well, I visited the site a couple of times, just sort of trying to get a feel for it. One thing I noticed about the neighborhood is how spread out the neighborhood is. And allowing this second subdivision will actually start creating a crowding situation. Yeah, it will. You'll see house after house after house. Whereas right now you have houses on large parcels of land, most of them being quite deep in that. And so I think that would impact the neighborhood. The neighborhood has a lot of land. And now we're creating a situation where we're going to have, not really crowding, but we'll have closer houses and closer proximity than we have in the rest of the neighborhood. So that was my observation.
Okay. Anyone else has input on the board, hearing the board? Okay, and then number 5.
Last,
Favorite.
not least, whether the alleged difficulty was self-created, which consideration shall be relevant to the decision of the board, but shall not necessarily preclude the granting of the area variance. So it's a question of whether the alleged difficulty, is self-created. I'll just leave it at that.
Which It is.
It is. He's trying to change it, making a request.
Um, okay, so
Typically, what you're looking for here with an area variance is whether there's some constraint of the land that makes the variance necessary, that the applicant would not have been able to, is just not able to do with, you know, what the state of the local code was at the time the property was purchased. That's relevant to whether or not this is a self-created hardship.
and
Those
like
are
we
the-
said, in the beginning of the meeting, the applicant knew going in what they were up against. So it's definitely self-created. That wouldn't necessarily, and the zoning hasn't changed since when the applicant purchased the property to now. So it's a factor.
And number two is that the neighborhood has changed since the physical compact design of the property. Now, different lots would be bought, different size lots are bought. So the planning board would have a whole different look on it, so we don't know whatever.
Right, they would, but for what's in front of us,
We don't know that.
okay. So Paul, do you mind going through the balancing test with our, input for each
Sure.
to refresh us, and then we can do a straw poll?
Sure, absolutely. So with respect to factor number one, the board's consensus is that the creation of the second flag lot would be out of character with the neighborhood and or a detriment to neighboring properties. With respect to alternatives, the board's consensus is that there is no feasible alternative to the creation of a second flag lot. The third criteria, the consensus of the board is that this would be a substantial variance if granted. The fourth criteria or fourth factor, the environmental impacts of the creation of there would be environmental impacts from the creation of the second flag lot, specifically that it would be out of character with the existing neighborhood and would result in sort of a change that is sort of a crowding effect, you know, changing the character of the neighborhood. And then finally, the requested variance is self-created because the property owner knew at the outset that a area variance would be required for the creation of a second lot. So taking those factors into consideration, the balancing for the board is again whether the benefit of granting the variance to the applicant, which would allow for the creation of the second lot and its development subject to planning board review, whether that benefit to the applicant weighs heavier than the detriment that would occur to the community and the neighborhood if the variance is granted. And that's the balance that the board needs to effect in its decision.
Okay, thank you. And because the public hearing was already closed, the comments we took today, there's nothing more to do on the public hearing, correct? Even though we took more public comment today, we don't have to do anything further to close it. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. You're really at a point, if you want to stay within the time periods for a decision prescribed by law, then you would make a decision tonight, and you can follow that up with just basically documentation of that in a resolution that I can prepare for you. Or the applicant has allowed that they would extend the period, they would waive the statutory timeframe for granting it or making a decision. So you could put this off to your November meeting and have a draft resolution in front of you at that time.
Okay, but we could get a general consensus tonight, actually vote tonight, and you would draft a resolution to more streamline the process. Usually we draft it first and vote on it, but we're on solid ground if we vote on it and then draft it.
You can make that decision, and I could draft it from there. Yep.
Okay. All right, so given the balancing test, we have 4 yeses on the balancing test. They're usually not really comfortable with one, other than the 5th one. So it's my feeling, unfortunately, that we would not be able to grant the variance. So I'm looking for feedback input. You guys, is there something?
I don't think you're missing anything. I'm on board with the denial, like you say, but I feel that it has to be a no.
With your, I think it's substantial. I think breaking it up and putting 2 flag lots on one piece is substantial. That's where my hang up is. So, okay, and Paul,
May I just ask, so is it the consensus of the board ultimately that the impacts to the neighborhood and the nearby neighbors and the community are, basically would be greater
that's
than
right. They would outweigh the benefit to the applicant. You are correct.
okay.
Yes, the substantial nature of this outweighs the benefit to the applicant.
Okay.
Everyone's on board with that. How would I word this, Paul? Or would you like to word it, or would we just vote and then draft a resolution after the vote? So basically, the vote would be for the denial of the application with the verbiage to follow.
What I would suggest is a motion to deny the requested variance based on the statutory balancing test and the overall assessment of the Zoning Board of Appeals that the impacts of the requested variance on the community and neighborhood and nearby neighbors are greater than the benefit of granting the requested variance to the applicant. If that could be, if you can accept that as a motion.
I'd like to entertain that motion.
I'll second it,
Yeah,
second that
you're
motion.
gonna go first.
Huh?
You would entertain, I would entertain.
The motion that was just read, I would like to, I'd like to make that motion.
Okay. Can I have a second?
Yeah.
Ross. Okay, so we need a roll call.
Finding.
All right. Jessica? Aye. Paul?
Paul Gardullo, and I.
It's an aye from myself.
Aye for me.
All ayes. The motion carries. And then, Paul, you'll draft that resolution?
Pursuant to the board's direction, I will, and I'll have it available for you to review and then formally approve at next month's meeting.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right.
No problem. They put a nice road in, they go through that.
So, next on the. Yeah, you have minutes to approve. Which I was absent, so you all would like to review
I read the minutes, I'm going to make a motion that we accept them as submitted.
them. All in favor?
We agree.
Carried. All right, entertain a motion to adjourn. We're not at that point, Mark. What would you like to ask, Mark?
When they brought up earlier that the original flag lot had a sentence written on there that no further development is that?
That's in our code.
But was it accurate, was it written on that?
Nope.
On that
No,
flag lot?
that, he was saying it is in our code.
That what you
It's
did?
not on the map, Mark.
Right, it's not on that, but it's in our code. That's language in our code. 100.
14.
14.4, 14.5,
Whatever.
something like that.
You can look at it.
All right. All right. Let you have that one. All right. All in favor? Aye. Aye. All right. Thank you very much.
Everybody.
Question for you.
Mhm.
You're part of the building department?
I am the building department.
Oh, okay.